June 1888, Pecos County, Texas. The sun does not rise here. It attacks. Lee Wei drives the last cedar post into the caliche with a 9-pound maul. The sound is a sharp crack, then a dull thud. A sound of permanence. Maijan brings him a dipper of water from the well he dug by hand. The water tastes of limestone and sweat. Their land is 47 acres of rock and hope. It sits 3 miles south of the Stagecoach Road, a place the dust settles and rarely leaves. They paid for it with money saved from the railroad, 10 years of laying track across a continent that did not want them. The deed is filed in Fort Stockton. Lee Wei frames it with scrap lumber and hangs it on the wall of the 2-room house he built himself. The pine boards are already warping in the heat. It does not matter. The paper is what matters. It says their names. It says this patch of unforgiving earth is theirs. They plant corn. It struggles. They plant beans. They wither. They dig an irrigation ditch from the dry creek bed, banking on the summer monsoons. The monsoons do not come. They buy 3 goats and a dozen chickens. The goats eat mesquite. The chickens eat scorpions. Maijan learns the language of this place. The language of cracked earth and cloudless skies. The language of making something from almost nothing. Lee Wei speaks of the future. He speaks of a son. He speaks of 100 acres, of a small herd of cattle. He speaks of a legacy. He speaks these things in the cool of the evening, his voice low and certain, while Maijan mends his canvas trousers by the light of a kerosene lamp. The flame flickers. It throws long shadows against the wall, against the framed deed. The paper is a promise. It is an anchor in a sea of dust. By July, the well is low. By August, the creek bed is bone. A cough starts in Lee Wei's chest. A dry rattle, like cicadas in the brittle grass. He ignores it. There is work to be done. There is always work to be done. The cough deepens. It settles in his lungs and does not leave. He works slower. The maul feels heavier. The sun feels hotter. Maijan boils teas from desert plants, remedies her grandmother taught her. They do not work. The railroad doctor is 2 days' ride away and costs $5. They have $2. He keeps working. He reinforces the chicken coop. He repairs the goat pen. He splits firewood for the winter that will not come for him. He works until he cannot stand. He sits in a chair in the shade of the porch, the framed deed visible through the open door. He watches Maijan carry the water, feed the animals, pull the stubborn weeds from her small garden. He watches her hands, hands that were once soft, become cracked and hard. He does not speak of the future anymore. He watches the sun set, a smear of orange and purple on the horizon. It is beautiful, he says one evening, his voice a whisper. Maijan nods, her hand on his shoulder. She does not say that the beauty is cruel. She does not say that the sky promises a coolness it never delivers. She says nothing. There is nothing left to say that work and silence cannot say better. In late September, the first norther blows through. The temperature drops 30 degrees in an hour. The wind howls around the corners of the small pine house. Lee Wei shivers under 3 blankets. The rattle in his chest becomes a flood. He dies just before dawn. The wind stops. The silence that follows is absolute. Maijan washes his body. She dresses him in his only good shirt. She uses the last of the pine boards to build a box. She buries him on the small rise overlooking the dry creek, a spot he had chosen. She marks the grave with a single, smooth river stone. She sits by the grave as the sun rises, the light catching the dust-moted air. The land is quiet. It has taken everything. It has given nothing back but a piece of paper on a wall. Winter comes. A season of quiet endurance. Maijan sells 2 goats and 6 chickens at the Fort Stockton market. The money buys flour, salt, and kerosene. She learns to set snares. She catches rabbits and a lean coyote. She works the land alone. The cold seeps through the walls of the house. The silence is a physical presence. It is the loudest thing on the 47 acres. In March, a man on a horse arrives. He wears a dark suit and a bowler hat, both covered in a fine layer of dust. He introduces himself as Mr. Davies. He is from the Consolidated Bank of West Texas. He does not get off his horse. He holds a sheaf of papers. He explains the loan. The one Lee Wei took out for seed and supplies. The one secured by the land. The amount owed is $172.53. The number hangs in the air. An impossible number. Maishan stands on the porch. She wears a simple grey cheongsam, the color of ash. Her hands are clasped in front of her. She understands some of the words. She understands the tone. It is the tone of finality. Payment is 90 days past due, Mr. Davies says. He is not unkind. He is not kind. He is a machine of numbers. The bank must foreclose. He hands her a notice. The paper is crisp and official. It has a seal. It announces a public auction. The date is set for June the 10th. At 10 o'clock in the morning. On the steps of her own home. He tips his hat. He turns his horse and rides away, leaving a small cloud of dust to settle where he stood. Maishan looks at the paper. She looks at the house Lee Wei built. She looks at the grave on the hill. She folds the notice and puts it in the pocket of her dress. She turns and goes back inside. She feeds the chickens. She milks the remaining goat. The sun is warm on her back. The work does not stop. The debt does not care. The news travels the way news does in a place with more space than people. It moves on whispers from the market, on glances exchanged over a general store counter. The widow. The Chinese woman. The one whose husband died. The bank is taking her place. Some feel a flicker of pity. Most feel nothing at all. It is the way of things. The land is hard. The banks are harder. People fail. Farms are lost. It is a story as old as the dirt itself. Men in town talk about the auction. They talk about the 47 acres. The well is a good one, they say. Dug deep. The location is poor, but the land is cleared. An opportunity for someone willing to work it. No one speaks of the woman who still lives there. She is a ghost on her own property, a temporary inconvenience. She is a detail in a transaction of land and money. Maishan sees the way they look at her when she goes to town for supplies. The looks are not unkind. They are merely looks of assessment. They are looking at a woman who has already lost. She does not meet their eyes. She buys her flour. She buys her salt. She walks back the 3 miles to the farm. Her spine is straight. Her head is held high. She wears the grey dress. It is her armor. In the weeks leading up to the auction, she works with a quiet fury. She patches the roof. She reinforces the fence line. She scrubs the pine floors of the house until they are pale and clean. She is not preparing the house for herself. She is preparing it for its next owner. It is a matter of honor. The house was Lee Wei's pride. She will not let it be sold in a state of disrepair. She will hand over a place that is cared for, a place that holds the memory of a dream, even if the dream is dead. She is polishing a gravestone. Each act of maintenance is an act of farewell. On the 9th of June, the day before the auction, she visits Lee Wei's grave. She pulls the few weeds that have sprouted around the river stone. She stands for a long time, looking out over the property. The sun begins to set. The sky bleeds color. "I am sorry," she says to the stone, her voice barely a whisper. It is the only time she allows herself to break. The morning of June 10th is still and hot. By 9:30, they begin to arrive. Wagons and horses kicking up dust on the road to the farm. About 20 men. Local ranchers in sweat-stained hats. Farmers from down the county. A few speculators from town. Mr. Davies from the bank is there, looking cool and professional in his dark suit. He stands apart, holding a leather satchel. An auctioneer, a portly man with a booming voice, sets up a small wooden crate on the porch. He is the master of these small ceremonies of ruin. The men gather in a loose semicircle in the yard. They do not look at the house. They look at the land. They assess the well, the fences, the condition of the soil. They are here for a bargain. They are here for the dispassionate arithmetic of another's failure. Maijen watches from the window. She sees them. She knows what they are. They are not monsters. They are simply men, and this is business. She smooths the front of her grey cheongsam. The fabric is worn but clean. She opens the door and steps onto the porch. She does not stand near the auctioneer. She stands by the far post, near the steps, her back straight, her hands clasped. A profound silence falls over the assembled men. Her presence is an accusation. A quiet, dignified rebuke. They shuffle their feet. They look at the ground. They had expected to bid on a piece of property. They had not expected to do it in front of the widow. Just as the auctioneer clears his throat to begin, another rider appears. He comes not from the main road, but from the west, across the open range. He is a tall man on a bay horse. He wears a canvas jacket and worn leather chaps. His hat is pulled low. He does not join the crowd. He stops his horse at the edge of the yard, a good 50 feet from the others, and dismounts. He says nothing. He simply stands by his horse, watching. He is a rancher, that much is clear from his gear, but no one seems to know him. A stranger. An observer. His stillness is different from the others. It is not uncomfortable. It is patient. The auctioneer, a man named Henderson, bangs a small gavel on his wooden crate. "All right, gentlemen," he booms, his voice shattering the quiet. "We are here today for the public auction of this property. 47 acres, more or less, with all improvements. A house, a well, fences." As he launches into a practiced, rapid-fire description of the land, the legal terms of the sale. The words wash over the yard. They are meaningless noise. The only things that matter are the numbers. Mr. Davies from the bank nods to the auctioneer. He is ready. The crowd shifts, expectant. Maijen does not move. Her eyes are fixed on the horizon, on the hazy line where the sky meets the earth. She looks at anything but the faces of the men who have come to buy her home. "We will start the bidding at the outstanding debt," Henderson announces. $172.53. "Do I have an opening bid of $173? Mr. Davies raises a single, clean finger. The bank bids $173. His voice is flat. This is a formality. The bank almost always buys back the property at auction for the value of the debt. It is the cleanest way. Henderson scans the crowd. "I have $173 from the bank. Do I hear $175? $175 for this fine piece of land." Silence. The men look at each other. They know the game. Bidding against the bank is pointless unless you are prepared to go significantly higher. The land is not worth that much of a fight. Not today. $173 going once, Henderson calls. Going twice, from the edge of the yard, a voice. Calm and quiet, yet it carries across the dusty space. 180. Every head turns. The stranger. He stands by his horse, arms loosely at his sides. He has not moved. He has not even looked toward the auctioneer. He is looking at the house. A murmur runs through the crowd. Mr. Davies's face tightens almost imperceptibly. This was not part of the plan. Henderson, the auctioneer, recovers quickly. A bidder is a bidder. I have $180. 180 from the gentleman in the back.
Do I hear 185?
185. Mr. Davies hesitates for a fraction of a second. He confers with a clerk who stands beside him, then gives a sharp nod. 190, Davies calls out, his voice a little louder now, a little sharper. He is setting a new boundary. He is making a statement. The stranger does not wait for the auctioneer. His reply is immediate. 200. The number lands like a stone in a still pond. $200. More than the land is considered worth by anyone standing there. The crowd is no longer pretending to be interested in the property. They are watching a duel. A silent, sun-drenched battle between the impersonal power of the bank and this quiet, unknown man. $200. Henderson bellows, a note of genuine excitement in his voice now. This is becoming a real auction.
Do I hear 210?
$210. Mr. Davies is visibly irritated. He had a budget. He had instructions. This stranger is costing the bank money, forcing them to bid up their own foreclosed asset. 210, he snaps. The stranger's response comes without pause. 220, it is a pattern. The bank makes a bid. The stranger raises it. He does not hesitate. He does not deliberate. His bids are calm, steady, inevitable. The price climbs. 230. 250. 275. The numbers have detached from the value of the land. They have become something else. A test of will. The other ranchers and farmers have fallen back. They are merely spectators now, witnesses to something they do not understand. Maijan finally lowers her gaze from the horizon. She looks at the stranger. She has never seen him before. He is just a man. A tall man in a dusty coat. But he is bidding on her home. He is fighting for it. Why? The bidding reaches $300. A gasp ripples through the small crowd. This is a fortune. This is more than most of them see in 2 years. Mr. Davies is sweating now, the heat and the pressure showing. He wipes his brow with a handkerchief. He is at his limit. 310, he says, his voice strained. He is betting the stranger will finally break. The auctioneer turns to the man at the edge of the yard. The sun is high. The air is thick with dust and tension. All eyes are on him. Have you ever seen a man make a decision that changes not just one life, but the shape of a future you can't even imagine? A decision made in the dust, under a hot Texas sun, with no fanfare. Just a quiet voice cutting through the silence. The stranger takes a slow breath. He looks past the crowd, past the auctioneer, and his eyes meet Maijan's for the first time. It is a look of simple acknowledgement. Nothing more. Then he turns his gaze back to the auctioneer. $500. The words are not shouted. They are spoken. But they echo like a gunshot. $500. The number is absurd. It is an act of annihilation. It ends the contest. Mr. Davies stares, his mouth slightly agape. He shakes his head almost imperceptibly at the auctioneer. The bank is done. The crowd is utterly still. Henderson, the auctioneer, seems stunned himself. He clears his throat. $500. Going once, he looks at Mr. Davies, who gives a final, sharp shake of his head. Going twice, he looks at the silent crowd. Sold. He bangs the gavel on the crate. The sound cracks the silence. Sold for $500 to the gentleman from the west. The stranger walks forward. He moves slowly, deliberately. The crowd parts for him like water. He approaches the auctioneer's crate, pulls a worn leather pouch from his jacket, and counts out 25 double-eagle gold coins. The clink of gold on the wood is the only sound. Henderson counts it, his eyes wide. he quickly scribbles a bill of sale and signs the back of the original deed, transferring ownership. He hands the papers to the stranger. It is done. The stranger takes the deed. He does not look at it. He turns and walks directly to Maijen, who has not moved from her spot on the porch. He stops in front of her. He holds out the folded paper. The deed to her home. Her land. This belongs to you, he says. His voice is low. Maijen looks at the paper. She looks at his face, trying to understand. Her hands tremble as she reaches out and takes it. Why? She asks, her voice a fragile whisper. The man looks over at the small grave on the hill, marked by the single river stone. Your husband, he says. Last winter. My wagon broke an axle about 5 miles from here. He found me. He gave me water and helped me fix it. Took him half a day. He wouldn't take any payment. He pauses. He said a neighbor helps a neighbor. The stranger touches the brim of his hat. I'm just paying a debt. He turns without another word, walks to his horse, mounts it, and rides away to the west, the way he came. He disappears into the heat haze, leaving nothing behind but a stunned silence and a piece of paper in a widow's hand. Maijen stands on the porch, clutching the deed. The paper is warm from the stranger's hand. The men in the yard do not know what to do. The transaction is complete, but the story is not. They look at her, then at the dust settling where the stranger had been. One by one, quietly, they turn and leave. They get in their wagons, on their horses, and they go. Mr. Davies packs his satchel, his face a mask of professional neutrality, and departs. The auction is over. The ruin has been averted by an act of grace so simple and so profound it defies understanding. Soon, she is alone again. The yard is empty. The silence returns, but it is a different kind of silence now. It is not the silence of loss. It is the silence of possibility. She looks at the deed. Li Wei's name is there, crossed out. Her name is not there. The name on the transfer is simply marked as paid in full. She walks into the house Li Wei built, and she hangs the deed back on the wall. It is hers. Not by law, perhaps, but by a higher accounting. A debt of kindness, repaid in gold. That afternoon, she does not rest. She goes to the garden. She pulls weeds. She carries water from the well. The work is the same. The sun is the same. The dirt is the same. But everything is different. The land is no longer a burden. It is a gift. It is a trust. She is no longer just a survivor. She is a steward. As the sun sets, casting long shadows across the yard, her nearest neighbor, a man named Marcus, rides up. He was at the auction. He had watched the whole thing, saying nothing. He holds a small burlap sack. He says, tipping his hat. He doesn't look her in the eye. He looks at the ground. Figured you might be short on seed for the fall planting. He holds out the sack. It is full of winter wheat seed. He sets it on the porch rail. A neighbor helps a neighbor, he says, repeating the stranger's words. Then he, too, turns and rides away. Maijen looks at the sack of seed. She looks at the deed on the wall. A single tear traces a path through the dust on her cheek. It is the first tear she has shed since the day Li Wei died. The story of the auction on the widow's farm became a quiet legend in Pecos County. It was told not as a grand tale, but in hushed tones, a strange piece of local history that didn't quite make sense. The stranger was never seen again. His name was Thomas Abernathy, a rancher from a county 200 miles west, a man known for his solitude and his prize-winning Hereford cattle. No one ever knew for sure if that was him. It was just a guess someone made years later. It didn't matter. His name was not the point of the story. His action was. Maijen planted the winter wheat. The fall rains came, gentle and steady. The wheat grew, a carpet of impossible green against the brown earth. She harvested it herself with a hand scythe. She sold the grain and bought 2 more goats and a pig. The next year, she planted again. The farm began to breathe. It began to live. She never remarried. The farm was her husband, her partner. She worked it with a devotion that was fierce and unrelenting. She had 2 children, a son and a daughter, with a traveling merchant who passed through for a few years and then moved on. She raised them on the 47 acres. She taught them to work, to endure, to be honorable. She taught them the story of the auction. She would take them to Li Wei's grave, and then point to the west. A man paid a debt, she would say. Never forget the kindness of a stranger. Never forget to be that stranger. If you have the chance. Her son, Kai, grew up tall and strong like the man his mother described. He expanded the farm. He bought the adjoining 100 acres. He used new techniques of dry farming he learned from a book. He married a local girl, the daughter of the man who had brought the sack of wheat seed that first year. They had 4 children. They all grew up on the farm. Maijan's daughter, Lian, became a school teacher in Fort Stockton. She taught a generation of children how to read and write. She also taught them the story of her mother's auction, a lesson in integrity that was not in any textbook. Maijan lived to be 91 years old. She died in the house Li Wei built, surrounded by her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren. The farm, by then, was over 500 acres. It was one of the most successful in the county, a testament to decades of relentless work. The deed, the original one, still hung on the wall, brittle and faded, protected under glass. After the funeral, her oldest great-grandson, a young man named David, stood with his father looking out over the fields of wheat, shimmering in the Texas sun. "It's amazing," David said. "That she built all this from nothing." His father shook his head. "Not from nothing," he said. He pointed toward the west. "She built it on a foundation of a single kindness. On a debt, paid in full." The story is still told in that family, passed down through generations. It is the story of their beginning. It is the story of a quiet man on a bay horse, of a grey cheongsam, of 25 gold coins, and of a debt between 2 men who met only once, a debt that purchased a future they would never live to see.